and you were still like, no, I can't, I could never.
It was funny because the first time somebody ever told me to do a podcast, it was because I yapped so much. I was like leaving these long voice messages, and it's like, you should just have a podcast because you could yap. And I said to that person, I'm like, you should have a podcast. And they're like, no, nah. 2 podcasts later, right?
So
and
funny.
and the new podcast is fantastic. Have you been listening to all the different episodes? I really like it. I really like it a lot. The Magnificent Others.
Oh my God. It's funny. It's because I love Corgan, and I think he is a great host for it, but he definitely struggled with some of the early episodes. But these last like 4 episodes, the pacing of the interaction, like he's self editing now. He's seen himself a few times apparently, and he's already adjusting. So like it's what I knew he could do, because the first couple episodes, and there was a few episodes where he controlled the conversation so much, because he has a very distinct way he wants the conversation to flow, and he's a lot like me. He interrupts. I do that
Yeah.
too. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
But it's also, I see my own journey making content as same as his, and the last 4 he's been like so polished, the perfect level of like keeping it conversational, keeping the conversation flowing, also getting to the points he wants to get to while letting the guests talk, even if they're not a strong personality. Because like Tom Morello is gonna get
Yeah.
his words in, right? But some of
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
are pretty timid compared to Corrigan,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
struggling with that. But it's been amazing to see him already land this early on. He's already polished, and I was a pretty big critic on some of those episodes. They were really rough to listen to, but I knew Corrigan could do it. I knew that if Corrigan watched it, there's no way he wouldn't see what we see, and would make himself better. Just like I had to when I first started. And now these last 4 episodes have been freaking awesome, just
Yeah.
amazing. Yes,
He's a great storyteller.
yeah,
And so that's why I always thought that would make sense to do a podcast. And maybe, the earlier formats were a little bit different because it had something else kind of wrapped with it, letting out the different episodes of Autumn, and what was going on in that storyline. So that kind of had a whole different thing around it. But I always thought that he's a really great storyteller. I thoroughly enjoyed the episode with the DeLeo brothers. That was a
yeah.
fantastic episode,
That was really great.
especially because I'm from San Diego. Um, and it was after I watched that episode and I sent to him, I said, I love the episode. It was a great episode. I said, I've got a really cool story about the DeLeo brothers. I said, a long time ago, I used to manage a punk band, and it wasn't because I knew anything about managing a punk band, but I'm going to have him on here
Okay.
because he's just released a new album, an Americana album. But literally, people are like, "How'd you become a manager of a punk band?" I'm like, "Because I worked at a retail. I was a manager at a retail store,
Huh.
and I was kind of gothy, and they wanted to have somebody to say, "Hey, go talk to our manager." It was strictly like just it was a punk rock thing. It was just like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, go talk to our manager."
All
That
right.
would just to be able to say that line, like, "Hey, we're pretty big. We got a manager."
Right.
And
Right.
then they talk to me and I just take some numbers down and hand it back over to Squeak. But it looked official, right? So
Sure.
um
Sure. Sure. Sure.
so back in those days we were practicing at a studio, and it was called Soundtracks, and it was in the shady, seedy part of San Diego, behind like where all the strip clubs were. And there was this guy that had this like guitar, he was running a guitar tech shop in there one day. And so
Uh
I remember sitting there and there was like some Ibanez guitar, and I was just messing around with this, and I was like looking to learn how to play. And so I'm like, "Are you selling this?" And he's like, "Nah." And then the next week, I went in there and he's like, "Hey, he just gave it to me." And I was like, "How
Wow.
much?" And he's like, "Oh, you could have it." And I said, "Why? Like, why are you giving me a guitar?" And he said that it was gifted to the DeLeo brothers to use. They didn't like it or something. They gave it to him, and I guess nobody liked it. But
Wow.
the great
That's an
story
amazing
about
story.
that, Yeah, it's an amazing story. But that guitar went around to, like, when I was done with it, I gave it to struggling musicians that had no money, and they turned, and that guitar has gone, even if it was a shitty ass guitar, it's gone around, and a lot of people have, done stuff with it. So that
That's
was a
really
cool story.
awesome. What kind of guitar was it?
Um, Night, it was just some Ibanez. I don't,
Yeah, I
it
got you.
was, um,
What
so
color
I,
was it? So I could try to look for it in other videos.
it was black. It was
Ah,
black.
okay.
It was
Yes.
black. It was really
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
What I didn't like about it, and I'm not a guitar person, it didn't have machine heads on it. It just, was tightened, but and there was it didn't it to me. I don't know. I just didn't. It wasn't my thing.
I mean, the price was right, but yeah, it wasn't for you. I gotcha.
But like I said, it went into good hands because at that time, struggling musicians. I know you've probably, maybe you've been in a band or you've known somebody in a band, struggling musicians. It's like, do whatever you can. I don't know how many musicians I've heard that have had their gear stolen. So sometimes they got to start from scratch. Um, I know I know some people that bought their first guitar in a pawn shop and still play that guitar today because there's a bond with it.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said if you come from limited means and you get a hold of an instrument finally that you like and sounds good. I think there's a special relationship between the player and the instrument that really carries through in the music. Whereas if you got unlimited resources and you go in to buy the best equipment, um, I think oftentimes it doesn't bring in any extra magic to the music. I think it's somehow a disconnect because they don't really have an ownership of the thing. It's just a tool to them. Whereas
Yeah.
if you really feel connected to the instrument, and a lot of times having some kind of like a story like yours, or it was gifted to you, or you had to save up for a long time to get it. Or in the Sex Pistols case, they stole stuff from David Bowie. Like, if there's a story behind it, it brings an extra component to like I want to use this instrument because it's part of my story now. And I think that you hear that in music a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of the great guitar players build their own guitars because they're chasing that dragon. They're chasing that feeling of like it's mine, it's for me. You know?
I think the same thing can be said about gamers building their own towers.
Yeah, it's very
Like
similar.
I've done,
Yes.
I did it like during COVID. I like figured
Did you?
out how to do it because what else was there to do during COVID, right? It
Right,
was like
right.
you're stuck inside the house. It was like, and
Well,
we were
I
just
started
talking
a
about
YouTube
this
channel,
last
so
night.
that was my madness. But yeah,
And that's how I first saw you, which was really
yeah,
cool. Um, it's but I thought, and I talked to a lot of people about this, and I'm like, I aside from a worldwide pandemic and people dying, I love that time
yeah,
because
right.
I think that it forced people to be creative because people were stuck at home. It forced people to learn how to do stuff. Think about all the people that are like the amount of drone photography that has erupted after COVID. And I'm so thankful. Like I just was talking about this recently. I'm so grateful for drone photographers because
You're right.
they're
Yeah,
taking me on trips around the world. I'm getting to see things that I would, I'm never going to go, I don't know, to Egypt. I'm probably never going to go to Egypt and walk around, but now I could see it pretty up close and
yeah.
it's maybe better back here. There's no like, I don't know, sand flies and heat. You know what I'm saying? But I'm so appreciative. But people did a lot of different things. People started YouTube channels,
Yeah.
but people also discovered music. People went back to music. Because I think that from this time, I don't know, I think that people stopped listening to music for a while.
Yeah, and I also think, I mean, for me, because I'm relatively extroverted, so it was definitely challenging to have that shut down. And part of the doing the YouTube thing, just searching for connection with other people. I mean, I started with my best friend who lives in Michigan. I moved to Virginia a long time ago, and we got closer again. It's like, and then through that, and meeting you and like everyone I've met since I've started that thing and getting deep into the pumpkins community during that time, it's really about connection because I think the pandemic, especially for me, it made me realize how much I need connection. Like I already instinctively was doing it, but once it was taken
Yeah.
from me, that and live music, once those things are taken from you, it brings a new ethos to it when it comes back. And so,
Yeah.
it's that same thing. You don't know if you have to struggle a little bit to create it, or we were talking about that with guitars. If you don't have unlimited resources, it's just it's easy to
Yeah.
buy whatever you need. But no, if you
Yeah.
struggle a tiny bit, it adds some ownership to it, and makes you have the perspective of appreciation. Um, and I've been really blown away by many of the new friends I've made since then, and it's all because of the effort I put into trying to connect over music
Yeah.
during that time, just reaching out. And I did that with my old friends. We talked more than we ever had in the last 10 years. We all
Yeah.
reconnected, and then meeting new, I call them internet music friends, but and
Yeah.
now I've met many of them in real life. We go to shows, we'll fly into a show, and we don't
Yeah,
live
I've
near
seen
each
that. I'm
other.
like, that's so
Yeah,
cool.
I it's magic. It's absolute magic to me. And I don't know if that would have happened if the pandemic shutdown had not happened. I don't know if I would have been
Yeah.
as motivated. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing.
It's funny because I'm the opposite of you. I'm a super introvert. In the beginning, and I told everybody, I'm like, the pandemic didn't affect me really whatsoever. Like, I
Yeah,
wasn't going out, I wasn't doing any.
yeah.
There was only like one instance where, like, I don't drink alcohol, like just because I fall asleep right away, or
Well,
it's
you told
either
me your
that
Vegas
or
story. You told me your
yeah,
Vegas
or
story.
yeah. So it's just like, it's not like a fun alcohol. It's like a very sad, like a very sad wandering, like, where is everybody? So I don't drink, but during the pandemic here, Thailand was really good because I think that we were the first case after Wuhan. So the first case outside of China, and Thailand was just like, we're locking down right
Done.
away. And then they
Yeah.
banned alcohol because alcohol would somehow like prevent the spread of COVID, right? So they banned
Right.
alcohol. And so alcohol was banned. We had a curfew, and the ban went on for a while. And then one day I went to the grocery store when they were starting to let people get back into society. And I
Hmm.
saw all these people, and they had cases of alcohol. And I said, what's going on? They said, the ban ended, but it might get back enforced,
Oh,
within a day or two.
we need to load up. Yes, right.
So I remember I was like with my mom, and I'm like, hang on. And she's like, where are you going? And I'm like, I'm going to go get some alcohol. She's like, you don't drink. I'm like, yeah, but I don't like people telling me I can't drink. I said, so I remember I came back and I had a bottle of red wine and a bottle of white wine.
Yeah.
And it was like it was the cheapest wine. I just grabbed whatever, like Jacob's Creek, right? Like just something from Australia, super cheap. And she came back. My mom was in the line. She starts crying, like tears in her. I said, why are you crying? She's like, you're
Really?
going to turn into an alcoholic when you have two bottles of wine.
Oh my God.
Um, so yeah, I bought them, and they're still downstairs. I still
Right,
haven't
right.
opened them.
Hey,
But
but
it was
the
just the
next
fact
shutdown,
that,
you're covered. You're covered. You
yeah,
at least got those two.
right? I just don't like being told, like, I don't like it when people say you can't do that. That's the sure way I'm gonna definitely do that.
Yeah, and I
Your
lived in Saudi Arabia for a couple years, so there was a lot of you can't do that. That definitely made me rebellious for sure.
I wanted to talk to you about that because I think that's a really, really cool experience. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I wasn't over there as the CIA or anything, so I got nothing to hide.
Okay, nice. I think that it's really cool because, obviously in America, people always hear secondary news of what's going on in the rest of the world. Um, what's been your experience as an American in Saudi Arabia? What are your impressions of it,
From a music standpoint, or just generally? Because
generally and for
the
music?
music's one's really interesting, and I could talk a
I want to
lot
hear about
about
that
that.
for sure.
Okay, the music thing, uh, the Middle Eastern pop music, it's very polished, and they like it. They generally like it, but they're generally really into Western music. I remember my driver, which is so crazy. I had a driver for a while who picked me up and drove me everywhere when I was in Riyadh. And I was a welfare kid, so to have a driver was just mind blowing to me. And he was so cool. Saeed, if you're watching this, I love you, man. When he heard Johnny Cash's voice for the first time, he flipped out. And I'm telling you, it was instant. He heard "Dark as a Dungeon." That's the second track on the Folsom Prison album. And by the by the end of the first line, Saeed was like, "Oh my god, who is this?" And we listened to nothing but Johnny Cash for the next 2 months. And
That's awesome.
there's a certain aspect of that experience for me where you do feel like you're in prison a little bit, and but it it's going to end. So when I'm listening to Green Green Grass of Home, for example, it hit hard. Not that I was in prison. I mean, I'm there making good money, but there's a lot of challenges with that, and a lot of missing the family, and it does feel like a sentence in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
And a lot of folks in the Middle East are not actually from the countries you're in. For example, in Saudi Arabia, there's like 11 million Filipinos there. 11. I mean, that's just one. That's just one country that's immigrated there to make some money. So the immigrant experience, they're all searching for some connection, and they all have to kind of hide their own, their culture that they came from a little bit. But
yeah,
and Saeed, my driver, he was I think he was from Egypt, I believe. So obviously not a Saudi national, but my God, we connected on music. Like when he heard Bob Dylan for the first time, and he was like, "Oh my God, the words!" He had no idea music could be that poetic, and wordy. Like
yeah,
you could have like a there's lots of poetic songs that are very simple, right? I can think of some, especially some like 1930s jazz stuff. At Last is like, you hear that, and it's simple and it's poetic in that simplicity, but the wordy version of it, where you can cram like three sentences into a verse, and
yeah,
it's all the most like robust language. He had never heard anything like that, and it resonated with him instantly. It's not that he was raised in our culture, and like, there's that thing like nature versus nurture, right? There's a lot of stuff I imagine we accept that we think is good, but it really is because we grew up in the Western music,
yeah,
having those influences, and you just
yeah,
kind of accept, yeah, everyone else thinks it's great, so I guess I think it's great. ACDC didn't mean anything to this guy. It's like he
yeah,
doesn't get that. But
yeah,
Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan, now contrast that with the pop music he was listening to on the radio, before I started riding with him, and I asked if I could play some of my music. That kind of thing. I went out there and I felt like I would have to hide who I am. I'm an agnostic heathen. That's punishable by death out there. Um, I really thought I
yeah,
wouldn't meet any local people that I really resonate with, but it was amazing how music brought me closer to many of them so quickly. I didn't have to. I didn't even have to try.
yeah,
They hear it, and it's instinctively, oh my God, this is amazing. And we can connect on that. And that cuts through, all the culture divides. And then you get to the deeper stuff. What are your kids like? What was your family like? But that kind of thing, it really set me on this path for my whole life, that you can boil any conflict with another culture, another country down in a blog. You can say all the hateful shit. I could easily list all the problems I have with, many Middle Eastern countries and how they run stuff. But people are people, and I met some of my favorite people I've ever met in my entire life out there, and not forced, not because we were working together every day, or working together.
yeah,
There's sometimes that you have work friends, but like the second you stop working together, you don't really care about that person. No, these people
yeah,
contact me. I mean, that was a long time ago. They still contact me once in a while, out of the blue.
yeah,
Justin, how you
yeah,
doing? And that it means so much to me. And the core connection was connecting over music. Music is a universal language, and particularly it's the artist I kind of like. It speaks to struggles. It speaks to struggles that everyone around the world has. Maybe the
that's why so
details
many
are
people love Bob Marley.
eh, Bob Marley's another great example. Bob Marley's like the Beatles to most of the world. It is that big of a deal, and I love Bob Marley too. So that was great to like be in a place where Bob Marley was as big of a deal as I think he is. So yes,
Yeah.
Bob Marley was played a lot. So yeah, that's a really great example. Um, so it kept pushing me towards what I always instinctively felt, which is music can music is one of the greatest gifts on the planet, and it brings connection, and we're not that different. We're not that different. Our ears work the same, our hearts beat the same, and we all generally have similar struggles, even if the details are different. So
Yeah.
it was amazing. So that's why
I
my
like to
music
ask
side of it.
I like to ask people just because, I live in Thailand now. I've been
Yeah.
here for about 15 years and it's a melting pot. It's
Right.
really a melting pot, but it's different when people go, oh, but the United States is a melting pot. I'm like, yeah, but we've got 11.6 million people in Bangkok and
Yeah.
everybody's from a different country. But here's the
Yeah.
other thing. Nobody cares where anybody else is from.
Right.
Nobody cares what sexual orientation you are. Nobody cares, but like everybody is just like, do your own thing. I love that. And I get to see that, but my opinions have changed because growing up in the States, being like you said, surrounded by different information, and you hear a lot of things, especially after 9/11. You heard a lot of things about Saudis, you heard a lot of things about, people from the Middle
Absolutely.
East. I
Yep.
went over here. A lot of people from Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates come here for what is known as medical vacations
Right.
because
Yeah.
you get top tier medical
Medical
care.
tourism. Yeah. I've yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for an affordable price, so everybody
Right.
comes here.
Of course.
And um, I remember at first thinking you see women all over the place with burqas, and I remember thinking in America this would make people nervous,
Yeah. Right.
right? And that's just the truth. I'm
Yep.
not trying to like single out America. I'm American, but it would make a lot of people in major cities nervous to see, these women. And I remember I was standing behind two. No, there was about three of them, and in an elevator, and they were all just kind of
In
huddled
the
together,
full burqa, like so it's just
full
the eye,
burqa,
just
and
eyes
no,
showing. Okay.
no, not even that. They had the
Oh.
ones with the also the
Oh. Okay.
metal.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know what it's called. I'm really ignorant. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to
Yeah.
offend
Yeah.
anybody, but
Yep.
I thought it was beautiful. I was like kind of looking like, and I wanted to ask about it, but I was really shy. But they went into this elevator and you could hear they went they went up when they were supposed to go down, but I could hear them laughing all the way up to the top. And then the elevator came back down and then it opened and they looked at me and I saw them again and they burst out laughing and we got in and we were all giggling until another group of Arab men came in and then they were dead silent, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
then
Yeah.
as soon as those guys left, they laughed again. And I thought, but we're so similar. That is goofy, silly. I loved hearing them laugh. I thought it
Yeah.
was kind of wonderful, So I love to ask people that have gone to different places to speak of it just so that people listening could sit there and go, well, it's not always what we hear.
Yeah,
Um,
and on the burqa thing, I'll just say that a lot of Westerners have this misconception that all the women in Saudi wear that. It's not the case. The abaya is very different than the burqa. When my now ex-wife, but my wife at the time came out and stayed with me for the summer, she wore the abaya, but her hair was flowing. When we went out, it was not a problem. So the burqa thing, it's a very distinct but niche version of the traditional Middle Eastern dress. So it's actually
yeah.
not even that common, even in Saudi, which is um, one of the more restrictive places out there. So I just want to throw that out there for everyone. It's
Yeah. I mean,
I saw a lot. I saw lots of faces.
just so delightful though. I love, one of the things I love about being here is meeting so many different people from so many different countries and just
Yeah,
hearing their opinions. And especially here, you find that a lot of people have become expats over here just for the same reason. They're like, there's just too much politicking going on in my country. That the energy sucks. So I'm over here where everybody's mostly talking about, hey, have you heard of this noodle joint, like this noodle cart, like on this
yeah,
street? And
yeah,
that's really what people literally talk about. Like, oh, where's this, like, just, there's a line outside every day of this guy with the noodle cart out here. And it's like, why do people find him? And he goes, TikTok. And I was like, okay,
TikTok.
TikTok. And he's like so happy. Um, so you started your YouTube channel with your best friend. And did you
Yes,
have a plan of what it was going to be about? Did you have like an idea, or did you just say
I
hit
did.
record?
I did. I saw. I've been thinking about doing a YouTube thing. We did a little YouTube thing first. I'm a safety manager, and we my employee at the time, he wanted to start a YouTube channel. I was like a co-host. We only made like 2 episodes, but I learned a little bit about the video editing experience, and I started thinking like, man, there's so many people talking about music online. Uh, they suck at it. I gotta tell you, I hate to be judgmental, but a lot of them suck at it really badly. The algorithm rewards them because they put out so low quality content they can upload every day. But I think most people who love music, they want to hear from other people who truly love music. And I finally found the Lost in Vegas YouTube channel. When I saw those two guys talk, I was like, "This is it." And it was the Butterfly Wings reaction, which one of them didn't even like the song. But to me, what I could see is that these are two people that really love music, and the setup really worked. And I thought, I can do that, but better. Because they're going to argue about what the lyrics mean. Like if I can have my guests kind of provide the reaction piece a little bit, and then I can provide the historical context, because I think that's what's missing in a lot of those channels. And then obviously later, as I got more into it, I started really get on the visual side, because I think seeing is believing, and having a lot of visual things. So I have a lot of fan edits behind me and all that stuff. Uh, so I got really into the fan edit side, actually making like cut me out of it, just making videos for the songs I love and providing it with like the best, like either it's splicing in great moments from several different live performances, or splicing in some interview context like at the key points. I really got into the aspect of that, and my inspiration for that is a film called The Filth and the Fury by it's a Sex Pistols movie with Julian Temple. Julian Temple made that, and that's one of my favorite movies of all time. And I didn't instinctively know that I was ripping that person off, but when I did my Sex Pistols series and kind of went back to some of that stuff, I was like, oh my god, this is exactly what I try to do. This is exactly where I got my method of madness with splicing stuff together. That to me, I think that movie definitely sparked something to me, even if I didn't know I could do it and didn't pursue those tools yet. Um, but that's what I try to do. I
I
think that
got
movie is just
inspired
a
by you.
masterpiece. Oh my gosh,
I got inspired by you because I'm not good at this, like I'm not good at the editing. I'm not good at the videoing.
you're
Like
doing great though. I'm really
we
impressed.
just well, it's I just actually went back to go listen to the first and second episode because
Yeah,
uh there's better technology to make the sound better now, like through whatever. So I'm like, oh, they're good conversations, right? And my episode with Mitch Wilson from No Knife is like still one of the highest rated ones. And so I'm like, oh, I should try to preserve better audio for that. And I listen, I'm like, God, we're terrible. Like we're so terrible. Like it's hard to watch, but I could be forgiving. And it's like the same with, Korg's new episode. It's like you just get better and you learn and you
yeah.
get feedback.
And
I
if you
mean,
don't
in the,
start, you'll never get there at all, because you have to do it to really learn. You can't theorize your way to be great. You have to do it. That's a big
yeah,
part. It's just getting
yeah,
started. I've been really impressed with
I
your
wouldn't have
channel.
done it. Thank you. I wouldn't have done it. Like it was, I don't know if I've ever told you how it started. Like I was just messing around one day it was like with Dolly, which is an AI type thing. And I was just like making these kind of retro, like I love like retro kind of radios. Like, so I always buy little speakers that are retro. Like, I just love retro radios. And so, like, I just made this retro radio. And Sayonara Cupcake is a misheard lyric from a pinback song. And
I
I
love that.
always thought that was the lyric. And so, like, I just made this logo thing. And I just said to my friend Anuj, who runs Legends of Music, he's got like 1 million followers. I told Anu, she's like my BFF, and my producer Desmond, I'm like, look, if I ever had a podcast, this is what it would look like. So they're like, all right, let's do it, let's be on it. And I was like, oh, just wait a second, right? And so we just use Riverside, which is what, and the only reason I use Riverside is that's what Korg used, like for when I did his.
Oh, okay.
And I never thought it was never anticipated that it was going to be video. And then it was my son who's like, he's like my de facto manager. He comes in and says, no one's going to listen if you don't put a video. And I was like, what do you
That's
mean?
true.
He's like, you got to put video.
Video
And I was
is
like, but
important these days, I think.
yeah, so here we are. And I'm going to tell you, this is partly to do with Smashing Pumpkins fans. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
After I did
The
the episode
microphone
with,
setup in particular is what? Or,
well,
okay.
part it's all
Okay.
connected.
I
So
can't
after
wait.
I did the episode on 33, the 33 podcast with WPC, um, maybe it was like, well, first of all, after I did it, my son, he's like, Mom, he's like, do you know you kept hitting the mic all the time? It's so annoying.
The
He
thumping,
said that
yes.
to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Don't thump.
then a week later, he's like, do you know, he came to me and he goes, do you know there's like a subreddit just about how people are annoyed with your thumping? And I was like, what? And he's like, man, they hate your thumping. I was like, but I didn't know. Like the mic was on the table. I did. So when this podcast started, like I was so paranoid. I'm like, I don't want to be a thumper. Like that
Thumper.
was so bad. Like I feel really bad that was so annoying. So my producer got this set up for me. And it was over to the side for a while, but then my best friend came on the podcast and he's like, and he knows I get irrational fears. Like I always get irrational fears, like stupid, ridiculous, irrational fears, like spontaneous combustion, Bigfoot, like really stupid
Yeah,
things. And he
I
came in
got
and
you.
he said, after like the second, like maybe the first episode that we did with video, he said, he sent a message. He's like, you're really brave. And I'm like, why, dude? And I was like, why? And he's like, for putting your face on camera. And I was like, am I ugly? I'm like,
No.
should I not put my face on camera? And he's like, no, dude, because like AI could take your photo now and like make a whole new video of you. And
Jeez.
I
I
was
mean,
like,
they're gonna
I'm
do
going
that
to
anyway.
obstruct it. That's what he said. I'm like, I'm going to obstruct AI. So like, I'm not going to, it was either that or do you know that Juggalo costume can't do facial recognition? Like if you wear Juggalo, did you read
I,
that?
I'm an Insane Clown Posse fan, so yes, I've heard of this. It's
Yeah.
really funny to
So
me.
like I heard that like if you want to go commit a crime, just you got to be a
Dress up as a
juggalo,
juggalo.
and
Whoop whoop.
it can't do facial recognition, which is crazy.
That's really
That's like
funny.
so crazy.
There's a
Um
picture of me in high school wearing the juggalo makeup. Maybe I'll send that to you sometime. You'll laugh your ass off. I did grow up in Detroit, so give me some credit, folks.
how was it growing up in Detroit? Like what was the music scene like when you were young? Like do you remember what
Oh
was like the first kind of music that you decided you wanted to listen to this? Not like what your parents or what you're hearing in the background, but like what.
yeah, I mean the big breakthrough. What I liked when I was young, super young, I used to listen to hip hop stations. So this is before I heard Metallica, before I heard Nirvana. I also listened to hip hop stations, maybe like fourth grade, fifth grade, because hip hop was definitely taking over the Detroit area, and it was the super early what the people call the golden age of hip hop. Uh, Public Enemy, early Fresh Prince, uh, Will Smith stuff, all that stuff. And what I liked about it,
You thumped.
I know I did thumps. I apologize. What I liked about it, I think if I analyze it, is because what my parents were listening to, um, they generally had great taste. My mother has great taste. She's a big fan of music. She's the one who taught me how to be a great fan. She loves music so much. But I think that the path that rock music went in her direction of taste was really freaking bad by the time the late 80s were here. The stuff that I was hearing, Now she liked Bon Jovi. I think Bon Jovi is actually a pretty good version of that kind of scene. But imagine, you turn on the radio's playing Bon Jovi. I'm also hearing Warrant. I'm also hearing Poison, and I'm telling you that stuff did not resonate with me at all. Michael
Come on,
Jackson was
every
probably an
rose
early.
has its thorn.
I mean, it's just bad. Whereas with hip hop, because I grew up relatively poor, welfare kid. We had a lot of struggles, um, and we had a lot of things that a lot of early hip hop talks about is in those, it's in those lyrics. So that felt more real to me, even on a very like I'm just an elementary school kid level. But I also love the beats, and I love video game music, which sounds a lot more like early hip hop than it does the glam metal stuff. Um, the Mega Man 2 soundtrack was probably, to this day, it's still one of my favorite pieces of music ever. I don't care what anyone says. The composer who made that is amazing. So, I mean, that's like, I talk about what my first music I liked that my parents didn't like. It's probably video game music, and that led to hip hop. But when I heard Metallica and Nirvana the same month, sixth grade, we moved to a new area. I made my first friend. He took me down to his basement. What are you listening to? I named some of the hip hop stuff, and he put on Enter Sandman, and that day changed my entire life because
Wow.
it sounded like it sounded perfect. It was like it perfectly nailed what I needed. Um, and Metallica was my first musical love. My first three CDs were Nirvana, Nevermind, Metallica, Black Album, and I believe Offspring Smash. So those are the first three, and I still live hip hop, but I mean, rock music was here for me. It was my rock music at that point, and I dived deep into that. So, but as far as like the Detroit scene, I think for the most part, up until the garage rock thing came out in like the 2000 with White Stripes, and I saw them a lot really early on, and I loved that. And there was a lot of bands like that. The Detroit Cobras is another great blues based local band that I saw quite a few times. But ICP and Eminem came out of the same scene. There was a local hip hop scene in Detroit, and that stayed with me even as I got into the rock stuff. Now ICP was like, to me, I always thought they were like Weird Al of hip hop. Like it was always a joke to me. I know in some circles they take it a lot more serious, but I always saw it as a parody of the gangster rap thing. I mean, I remember Violent J. He's on. I think he's on Howard Stern, and they're showing the clip of Bill O'Reilly giving Violent J some shit because he said when the kid showed up to get his autograph signed, and he's like, he said some really messed up stuff to the kid, which Violent J did for me when he signed my autograph when I was 13. He said some really messed up, like go kill your parents when you leave. But he's a clown. He's a freaking clown. If you actually are a fan, you know this is not real. And Valje said that exact quote. It's like, I paint my face. What kid is looking at us and saying this is real life? Um,
Yeah. This is
it's
my role model.
this is my role model. So those are an interesting like horror rap thing that was going on in Detroit. East Sham's another one. The whole psychopathic records thing I was pretty into. And Eminem's not that way, but he also kind of is. He is a shock artist, especially when he first came out. And the flow was similar. So Eminem hit for me like perfect time. I mean, my God, that was 1999 when that first hit the mainstream. So that was a big deal too. And we went to the electronic. It was called the EDM Festival, Electronic Detroit Music Festival. That was a big deal every year. All DJs. I think hip hop's lost a lot of the DJ culture. The DJs have gone into electronica and just doing, you know, I feel like Daft Punk kind of gave them a new out. I miss the days when hip hop and the DJ culture were more intertwined, and that's what I got into that scene a little bit. But I really loved when in 2000, I think people were pretty tired of the ultra macho, thick guitar, new metal thing. And when I heard, Detroit Cobras or the White Stripes, I was like, oh, they're dialing it back, but it's still interesting and great. I mean, especially the White Stripes. I'm such a huge fan. Um, just the two of them on stage in a small place. The first time I saw them was the top floor of a bowling alley. I mean, my God. So
That's
that
cool though.
was, yeah, it was cool. It was cool. So it's like Detroit has such a great musical legacy. I think
Yeah.
punk was born in Detroit. That's a controversial statement, but I do. I really think the Stooges have a lot to do with it. Also, early Bob Seger has a lot to do with it. Alice Cooper has a lot to do with punk. That's all Michigan. So and Motown's one of my favorite things of all time. So I'm a huge into the Detroit music legacy, and I'm so grateful that I got to experience like my own version of it in my lifetime, and on two different fronts. On the hip hop front, I mean Eminem's one of the
Yeah.
biggest deals
Yeah.
ever,
Yeah.
right? And then on the music front, to hear someone doing someone my age doing slide guitar again, and it
Yeah.
sounds fresh and great and not a Zeppelin ripoff.
Yeah.
It was huge, and I love that scene kind of exploded with them and the Strokes. They kind of kicked that door down, and rock music got uh, less aggro,
Yeah.
more fun, and I
Yeah.
thought that was a good direction to go in. Even though I love a lot of the new metal stuff, I love the Angry Boys shit. I love it,
Yeah.
but I like that they carved out a new path too, and I like Detroit was part of that.
I think that you're totally right in terms of the white stripes thing. I think you know that I worked at a elementary and early years school for several years, and when the kids, I one of the kids did a performance with other students, and they did Seven Nation Army,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the drum set were just all buckets, and he added different things to give them
Hey, it
different
works.
tones, but
Yeah,
it
yep,
it worked.
yep,
It was like so
yep.
fantastic. But I thought, not only is it inspiring children under the age of 10, they're doing something that's kind of different and innovative. Look at the creativity in that. There's like some engineering going on. Like I asked his dad, I'm like, did you help him do that? And he goes, no, he did it all on his own. And he was so proud.
They found the tones with
This,
different size of buckets. Yeah, that's
yeah.
so cool.
And I thought,
And I bet you Jack
that's so
White would love
cool.
that. Jack White would
Yes.
love that. He's so into
Yes.
that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's amazing. So I think that, yeah, I think that that's really cool when people could do so. Right now, I just, maybe you will like this band. It's called Fever Ray out of Sweden. And I'm like right now so addicted to this
Oh,
band because
okay.
I've not heard these I'm just mesmerized. Like,
Oh, you gotta
wow.
send me some stuff. I don't know them.
So yeah, I will. I just recently discovered them because I had Cecilia Nordland from Souls and Monkey Strikes On, and she's from Sweden. And I got somehow into a Swedish algorithm for a while, which no complaints. I'm still kind
Right.
of on the Swedish algorithm, and I have no complaints. But it started sending me The Knife, which was fantastic. But it started sending me a lot of like Swedish music, and so that's how like I found this. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic, which is why I like hashtagging people from different places because I love to hear different music. I just
Yeah.
told Anuj yesterday or 2 days ago because he's got like 1 million followers and we are BFFs and we like to collaborate on things because we do different things. He likes to do the history of music and what behind how he started his page is really amazing too. And you would appreciate this. Um, when he had only had like 60,000 followers, like I one day somehow got on his page, and this was at a time when my son was young, and he said, I want to have Instagram. And I said, I can't, you're too young to have Instagram, but I'll sit with you every night and we'll go through. And
Right.
so we had a lot of music stuff, and we got onto Anuj's page, and he had some story, and it was a story about Korg. And it was a whole post on um, Cheap Trick. And he said that after this particular, performance, Cheap Trick threw out a record into the audience, and Korg stood up and caught it. And I was like, I'd never heard this story before.
Wow.
And so like I sent him a message and I'm like, is this a true story? Because you hear stuff all the time, right? And you don't know what's
Right.
true or
Right.
what's true.
Right.
And I'm like, is this a true story? Because that's really cool. And he's like, yeah, and the record's it's still it's hung up in my office. I'm
That's
like, that's
amazing.
cool. So I'm
That's
like,
so
that's really
cool.
cool. And so like I started reading all the different things, and Anuj wrote that the reason he started the page was he was discovering music, and as he was discovering bands, he was just sharing what he knew. I thought that's so pure, right? So,
Yeah, right.
anyways, I sent him a message and I just said, "Hey, me and my son have just spent 2 hours on your page, like, and me and him had really cool discussions, like." About
That's so
music, my
cool.
son and me. And so I just
Yeah.
said, "So thank you for making this page." That's all I said. And he wrote back, he was so excited. He's like, "Oh, thank you so much." And then he told me he was like, I think he was like 22 or 23 at the time. And he's like, "I'm a 22, 23-year-old Indian kid living in Dubai." And I was
Oh, wow.
like, and
Yeah.
I'm looking at all, he's like, got Metallica. So I'm like, okay, now I'm
Yep.
curious. And
Right.
the first thing I was like, I want to know, how did you get music? Like, because I mean, maybe I'm ignorant, like I don't know what people in Dubai listen to. Tell me, how did you discover?
Well,
And that's how we became
yeah,
friends.
that's so cool. And I'll just say, like, Dubai and Bahrain, I saw some of the best bands I've ever seen, and they play music from all over the world, in both those places. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which
so
Pumpkins
it
will
makes
be
sense to me.
going to.
Yes, how cool.
We'll
So,
plug this for Korg.
right?
Well,
Heck yeah.
we'll do Korg a favor. No, just joking.
When I
But
saw,
yeah, they are coming.
but Saudi changed a lot in the last couple years too. When I saw Metallica played Riyadh, I couldn't freaking believe it. I mean, because that was the most restrictive place in Saudi. So even Saudi Arabia is changing drastically because, just to remind everyone, live music, if it wasn't religious Islamic music, you go to jail. It
Yeah.
was not possible. Movie theaters
Yeah.
banned. I mean, it was that restrictive. And so now they brought in Metallica. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. Like, don't you want to
Yeah.
start with like Kenny G or something really uncontroversial? Like, it
David
just tells you.
Hasselhoff.
It tells you. I think music really does break down the barriers. And what's the great Martin Luther King Jr. quote? The arc of justice, or the what the heck is that quote? It's like the arc of time is long, but it bends towards justice, something like that. And I think music is a big component, even when it's not trying to change society for the better. All the Beatles had to do was sing about love, and it's changing society for the better because it's going to break into places where people are told that music and other cultures are bad, but they hear this great Beatles song talking about love, and they go, that's supposed to be banned. I'm not allowed to listen to that. I think that alone, it makes a big difference. And I guarantee music, Western music, and their love for it is a big part of why the Middle East is changing so much for the better so quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you go from like banned movie theaters to Metallica playing in Riyadh in like
Yeah.
10 years? That's an
Yeah.
amazing cultural change so quickly. And it has to be because they would all go to Dubai and Bahrain where the bands weren't banned, and they play that music and everybody loved it. And I have a great pumpkin story. In Bahrain, they played Butterfly Wings. This band did, and it's a band at the bar. Most people aren't paying attention, right? But it's a
Yeah.
big bar. There's like 100 people there. There's lots of people in traditional, Middle Eastern outfits. When they played Butterfly Wings, I swear half the audience stopped what they were doing, looked directly at the band. It was the biggest it was the biggest moment of that night, with the audience connection with the band, and it was the heaviest, most ferocious thing that band played that night. With
Nice.
I mean, I used to be kind of a snob about the singles, like, they're not all that
Yeah.
great. No, I was an
Yeah.
idiot. I was completely freaking wrong, because what Corrigan did with that song, he delivered a gift to the whole world, to the whole world. Yes, he used a structure that's well run, well used in a lot of pop music. The way that builds it, there's lots of great examples of that. And yes, but he knew what he was doing. He kicked down the door with that song, and that experience, I cannot tell you how that felt as a Pumpkins fan, especially at that time. This is right after Zeitgeist, and the whole Pumpkins thing was kind of on the downhill. The '08 tour was very, very not well received, so there's a lot of negativity about the Pumpkins at that time, and that kind of
Which
like,
I don't even understand why. I was like,
yeah. Oh,
why?
we could talk for like 3 hours about that. But I mean, it definitely, you were feeling like, I think Jimmy had just left at that point, so I was feeling kind of down, about the
Yeah.
Pumpkins' future. But seeing that moment, it proved, one, music's a universal language. Two, the pumpkins are freaking amazing. I mean, the way that that crowd reacted to that is just unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Biggest
I
reaction of the
think
whole
that
night.
he affects, I think people, I think that's a kind of a beautiful thing about him, about other artists. It's how deeply they can affect people. I'll tell you that every single Thai person I have ever ran into, if I've had on a pumpkin shirt here or they've had on a pumpkin shirt here, like total strangers, we all have pictures of each other in our phones because we're like, hey, hey, which is so different from what you
Yes.
hear, like
Yeah,
people like
yeah, yeah.
name three bands. You know, it should be the way we are. We're like, hey, you know, it's like
Hell
we're
yeah.
excited. And so like I have all these random men and it was so funny. And sometimes I forget, right? And then the when the Pumpkins announced their tour here in Bangkok, that they were coming in Bangkok, one of those random men sent me like a picture of us wearing our Pumpkins t-shirts together. And I showed my son, and he's like, I remember that day because we went to go see it was a BMX exhibition of like vintage BMXs. They had like 200 old school BMXs, which was really cool. And
Yeah,
just met this guy, and he was just like some old Thai man that loved the Pumpkins. But
that's
I think
amazing.
that's a beautiful thing. Like I think
It's
that
a
that
beautiful
because
thing.
we were friends, like instant. We like the
You know,
same band. We're friends.
I remember Corgan responding on Instagram. I think the question was something like, "I feel really isolated. You know, how do I find connection?" Um, and Corgan's advice. I mean, what's Corgan gonna say? He doesn't know. He doesn't know the whole story. But Corgan's advice at that time was put on a band T-shirt, wear the stuff that you like. You will find people. You'll find your people because there's other people out there that feel the same way as you and like what you like, and they need to see it, and you'll find your connection. I thought that was really it was really brilliant. It seems so simple on a level, but my God, if you talk about like how I found my I call them my brothers from other mothers. You know, my friend group from when I was young, it was that we were all wearing Metallica t-shirts. You know, I mean, that's how it first comes together. So
Yeah.
it's such a simple thing, but it really is impactful and important, especially in this time when social media wants to convince everybody that we're all enemies all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's the simple stuff
It's
works.
interesting. Because I don't know if you watched his um Substack yesterday. He had a Substack and he was just talking about and he was and I think it's his Substack is a paid Substack to get certain videos. But I think that that's really great because he asked people, what's your ideas? Like, how could we
Mhm.
build a better community? How
Right.
we could, and I was saying, the same thing of what you said. It's like a lot of people have tried to tell me, you should do this for your podcast to get it more out. And I'm like, I hate doing all that. They're like, you should put it on TikTok. You should put it. I'm like, what? I don't really want to do any of that. They're like, how are people going to find you? And I said, I
I
think
don't
the ones
care.
I said, I think that whoever's going to find us is going to find us. I'm like, that's how it's going to be. And it's going to be organic and it's going to be whatever. But like, I don't like, why should I go and put videos on TikTok if I don't use TikTok? I'm like, I'll put
Exactly.
them on
I feel the
Instagram
same
because
way.
I'm on Instagram.
I feel the
And
same
so
way.
I'm like, I'll post the actual podcast across different platforms. But in terms of like the video advertisements, I'm like, I'll put it on Instagram because I use it. And I like Instagram because it's one thing at a time. If I don't like it, I could swipe it away,
Right.
and it's just I don't have to deal with. And people are like, oh, but how are you going to get discovered? I'm like, what do I care? Like, I'm not monetized in any way. Like, I just put out weird stuff that I like. And somehow it's crazy. People have found this. Like, we have like 11,000 people. And I'm like, Jesus, like, where are you people from? Like, where
Amazing.
are you from? And a lot of people find it from just like sometimes I leave comments on like another video, like, oh, this is my favorite video. Like, this is such a good, and they'll add you from that.
Yeah.
People will
Yep.
add you because people that want to talk about music, like you and me, will find each other and talk about
Absolutely.
music. So
Absolutely.
I think that I love your deep dive series, and I
Oh
hope
my
you
God.
continue more with your deep dives.
I'm working on it. I'm trying to do a tech upgrade. When I come back, it's gonna sound much better. It's gonna look much better. But believe me, I will finish the Pumpkin series. I just started that Metallica series. I can't wait to get back to it. And thank you so
I have
much
a
for
I
your
have to
support.
tell
It
you a
means
confession.
everything to me. Go ahead.
I have a confession.
Oh boy,
BJ already
here we go.
knows this.
Uh
BJ already knows this. I haven't had a chance because I had bronchitis for the last week. I've been coughing my lungs out for the last week. This is the first day I'm not, well, I coughed a little, but so I haven't had time to edit his episode yet, which we were, and I still want to bring you guys both because I really want to do a more in-depth thing on Machina, which is
You
my
can
favorite
call me
Pumpkins
any.
album.
We'll do this anytime. Yeah, I'll
Um,
come back.
okay, so here's the juicy gossip. I can't believe I haven't, and I don't even know if I told Korg about it yet. Maybe I did or didn't. But speaking of Zeitgeist, so when Zeitgeist came out, um, I think I had a little different of opinion of it because I was on an
Yeah,
inside.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I was very excited for it to come out, and to this day, I think it's some of the most incredible work that they've done. Um, but at that time, it was met with such vitriol. I don't know why. It was like, but absolute vitriol. Um, and that was shocking to me. I don't know if you remember. I'm sure that you remember because I think that you know all the stuff. You've heard of Netforia.
I was on net for you. Yes. Yep.
There was a time that there was this
Rough
alternate
place.
site. There was an alternate site. Do you remember? There was a time somebody made an alternate site that mirrored it exactly, but it was called Fuck Netforia.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
That was
I,
me.
wow. Oh my god. Oh, is that on the Wayback Archive? Can we pull that up?
I have no idea. That is me. I am
But
fucknet. I made fucknet for you because I was
you
like I went on that for you to try to understand like what's with all the vitriol and what's with all the hate. And I remember I asked one question and I was like attacked, like totally
yeah.
attacked. And I
Oh
was
yeah.
just like, what's up with this? So I started reading. I'm like, all these people are mean. I'm like, these people are mean. And I don't know who Monty is, but they're really mean to this guy, Monty. And I was just like, these are just all mean people. So I was just like, you know what? This and net for you. So like I went and bought the website. I'm like futnetforia.org.
uh,
I bought it. I made it look exactly, mirrored it and everything. And then I had a friend Photoshop that picture of Johnny Cash where Johnny Cash is, flipping the bird.
yeah.
And I
Cash
made it,
only. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
made it put Korg's head on it, and that was me. And it was just like the alternative. Like I don't
That,
know if I had told Korg this. Like
that's
maybe I
amazing.
have a
I
so, but you
remember
know
that
what?
site.
Yeah, and everyone was mad. People were like so mad. They were like angry. They're like, "Oh, who the hell did that?" Yeah, it was me. It was just me because I thought you guys are mean, and I'm just gonna make a friendly site over here. And you know what? I did make friends on there, and I'm friends with them to this day. And we talk about music, and that's all we talk about. And they were like the friendly people, and they said the same thing, like, "Oh man, so yeah, you have a scoop.
That's
That's
amazing. So what I'm
that
doing right
that could be
now
your
is I'm
scoop."
actually looking on the Internet Archive Wayback Machine to see if they have any
Yeah,
screenshots of your old
that would
website.
be so funny.
So it's
Yeah.
fucknetforia.org, right?
.org. Yeah, that was me.
Looks like no one. Hold on.
So
Yeah,
that's been like almost a 20-year secret.
that's amazing. Oh
So
look,
yeah,
I
I
got.
told BJ. I
Oh,
was going to tell you and BJ at the same
oh my
time.
God! I
Did
have a
you find it?
screenshot. I have a screenshot. This is amazing.
That's so funny.
Two
So you can,
captures from March 2008. It looks like it's after you kind of let it slide because it says
yeah,
"Oops, page not found." Oh
yeah. I
God,
think I
I
just let
would
it
really would
slide.
like to see that site again. I remember it. Wow, I had not thought about that in so long.
Yeah,
Big reveal. This is amazing.
big. It's. I will send you like when I'm done. Like I was going to ask you. I didn't know if there was a way that you can do this meta where you could record your show while I'm recording my show. I don't know, but I'll send you. I'll
Oh,
I'll tag your
oh,
show into this, and I'll just give you the video for this afterwards, and you can make it your show too.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah, I can upload it as like a clip. I won't
But I
put it
think
up
that yeah,
under my name, but I'll put it in the community thing. my subscribers will see it, and yeah, I'll get you some exposure.
It's so
My
no,
limited.
it's just so funny. It's
That's
just
amazing.
I totally forgot about it, and then when I had BJ, I'm like, oh, I was going to tell BJ and Justin this big secret. Like I didn't know if BJ even used Netforia, and he's like, he said not really, but negative place. Is it still like
Oh my
that? I
god.
wonder.
Well, it is still like that, but it is still like that. But the amount of people on there that are actually active, I mean, it literally you could count them on two hands. Uh,
But you know what? I
it,
think that
it
all
the
Pumpkins
place is
fans are a
dying.
little snarky, and that's okay.
They are opinionated for sure. I'm definitely in the
Yeah,
same way, and
yeah,
it leads to snark, and snark's fine. I like snark. I like
yeah,
Corgan snark. I like when
yeah.
you kind of shit on each other a little bit, but the level of Netforia, the death threats, tricking
Were they
young
death
kids into
threats?
clicking into hardcore porn, like that kind of stuff. It is one of the most toxic places.
Wow.
But
Now I
but
don't feel
I got
guilty about making the site.
yeah, yeah. But I got to tell you, I do have good friends that were on there that followed when the O board was opened up, the Smashing Pumpkins official board. There's a lot of Netforians that I actually like that went over to there, and
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
one of those passed away during the COVID. He got COVID and died on a trip to Hawaii actually, and
Oh
we
wow.
I mourned that pretty bad. So I tried to log into my old Netforia accounts just so I could join. Like they were actually really respectful. It was actually a nice Netforia moment because even a lot of those folks that gave that guy a lot of shit, they were like, we still loved him. So
Yeah,
it was nice. It's weird, but it's almost like a Howard Stern thing. They're so
yeah,
fucking toxic to each other, but I think the reason they won't let it go is they really do feel a sense of community with each other. Cut the
yeah,
pumpkins out of it.
yeah,
There's probably more just like they just want to talk to each other. And I think there's some magic in that, even though
yeah,
I think a lot of them are pieces of shit. But I get
yeah.
it. It's like they're all pieces of shit together in a way.
Sometimes, I mean, sometimes there are things that are said that make you chuckle. They
It,
just
it is
it's
funny.
funny.
It is
It is
funny.
funny. I love that sometimes you see it now on transfer to memes. I think I like that about Instagram. Like I see some funny memes of Korg and I've sent it to him. And I'm like, don't hate. This is funny. Like this is really funny. And I just send it. Um
Yeah.
like there was that one on the roller coaster and then they put the sound of atmosphere from Joy Division when it's like we I thought that was funny. I think they did it for another song for 1979. They did it too. Like it's funny. Like I think that I even think though that somebody that makes that has a certain amount of love for Korg. Like even if you're going to make a meme, obviously,
The ones that are left definitely all have a deep love for the Pumpkins legacy. It, and it builds into I think part of it is them trying to make each other laugh, and because they have such a deep knowledge in the snark level, I think that's the appeal. um
yeah,
but I just think, I mean, it is a little sad in a way that they can't seem to let it go. I mean, I've often said on the subreddit, I talk about the time when I had to quit following Corgan because he pissed me off so much. I just had to stop for a couple years, and I came back to it with a more mature, like take it less seriously. But and instinctively, I kind of get holding it so precious because I definitely felt that way. Um,
can I ask you
yeah.
what made you feel that way? Like what made you
Oh,
angry at the
it gets
time?
really deep, but I really, I don't know if I want to say this. It gets really deep. I cannot. All right, I guess I'll just say it
We don't have
because it's you, Lisa. I'll say it. I'll say it. It means everything to me that Corgan has a happy ending, and I really thought after Monuments, I thought he was going to kill himself and I would lose him, and I couldn't bear to watch the spiral. I could not bear it. It was so painful to me. Um, I just couldn't handle it anymore. I've had 4 suicides in my life. The Pumpkins are a big component of something that inspires me, and it just got so hard to watch. It got so hard to watch, so I had to give it up. because I just felt like whatever the dream was he was trying for, it wasn't going to happen, and he was going down the. It gets really deep, but that's how I felt. And to see the crawlback from that moment has been so inspirational to me, especially as my life fell apart, my marriage and all that stuff. The reason I have kids is because of Corkin. I mean, he's the biggest reason I came to that conclusion, like that having the family dream is a big deal. And I
I
talked.
thought you were like I thought you were saying like you got it like you impregnated your wife during a pumpkin
Oh yeah,
song.
yeah, yeah. No, not that way, not that way.
I was like,
No, he.
Which song was it?"
Which song was it? Well, to be clear, my first child was actually not my child. I entered his life when he was 2, and I was 22, and I adopted him. So I signed up to be a dad really, really young. And what was the band I listened to the most? And I came into the Pumpkins being the angry boy, but listening to Corrigan talk about 33 on the VH1 Storytellers thing, and talking about the dream that he had, and then you listen to My Blue Heaven, and you start getting into the ethos of like, wow, he really think he wants to have a family. It's freaking clear.
Yeah.
And if he
Yeah.
thinks that's worth something, maybe I should pay attention to it. And so I was like, famously, I'm never having kids. I told all my friends in high school, like, I'm gonna get snipped the second I can. Like, I was famous for it.
Yeah.
And now look, I mean, my God, my oldest son, who I adopted, he just turned 21, and now he's going to pumpkin shows with me, and I put him front row,
So cool.
and like, man, it's such a big deal to me that Corrigan finally had kids of his own, and like,
Yeah.
and for that to happen not at the same timeline as me, but when I emotionally needed to see it the most, when my
Yeah.
life was falling apart. I swear,
Yeah.
like, I'm a pretty agnostic heathen. I don't have much faith in much things, but my God, there is some magic to that. The fact that the second I really needed the pumpkins back in my life to inspire me in the same way I did when I was in college, and I felt so lost, that Corrigan also had this huge like resurgence, bringing the pumpkins back with his kids in tow, living the
Yeah.
dream. Like, the
Yeah.
second I needed that level of inspiration, they were there. I mean, it's magic. It's absolute magic. And to see Augustus like come interrupt the show on stage, I've seen that a few times now. It always makes me cry every time. It's so awesome.
Did you see the one yesterday? I loved it because it was one of those I loved it so much where, Billy was talking about that Augustus was a bit in the doghouse, and even Chloe was like, "Why?" And he's like, "'Cause dad told me to get off of YouTube, and I wondered why dad gets to watch YouTube all day, and that's what got him in the doghouse," like, questioning. And
Come
I
on.
love that, though, because it's like, he's a mini you. I'm like,
Yeah.
"He's totally a mini you. He's questioning authority. This is exactly what you did, and you're surprised?" He's gonna, like
Well, that's why it's so great when you see Corrigan, like, when they're interrupting like the live streams on Substack. Like, Corrigan's like, he's trying to be the stoic, I'm in control dad, but at the same time he's laughing to himself because he sees himself. You can see it really clearly. He's just like, this is the shit I used to do to my parents. Like, he can see himself there, and I resonate with that. My youngest, who is my bio child, he's Augustus' age, so I connect on that too. With my oldest, I adopted. I don't necessarily see myself in the personality as well. I definitely see it with my
Yeah,
youngest. I love them both the
yeah,
same, but with the youngest, when he's like annoying me, I have to laugh more because I can see it's the same shit I used to do, exactly the same. I
yeah.
can picture it, so it's fascinating to see that. It breaks his bitter goth heart in pieces, and I love to see it.
My mom used to always tell me, she's like, "Someday you're gonna have a child that's gonna be exactly like you, and you're gonna know what it's like." And my child is exactly like me, and
Yeah.
we're cracking up all the time. We're, like,
Yep.
laughing.
Yep.
I think that his Substack, and I think that not just to plug it just because he's my friend, but it is a good Substack, and I a lot of people sit there and say, "Why should he charge people? And I will say this because it's the same thing that I considered doing a paid model in the beginning, because I thought, if somebody's going to come and be rude about something, you could just say, here's your money back, and kick them off. That's a huge reason, that you don't have to kind of take anonymous abuse. Um, but I also think that it kind of gives the right crowd of people that are going to be like, pretty positive. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to agree. I think that it's nice to have that kind of additional access. And why should he give it away for free?
Yeah, when it first got announced, there's a lot of negativity about it on the subreddit. Um, and I'm certainly not an apologist. I always critique when I have complaints. I have plenty,
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
like, I tried to tell everybody. I've been on Jeff Tweedy's Substack since he started. That's going on several years. It's been amazing. Jeff Tweedy is probably the songwriter I connect with the most these days in my life. He is Corrigan level for me. It's Corrigan, Bob Dylan, Jeff Tweedy. That's the holy trilogy for me. And I got to him different points in my life. Obviously, I got to Corrigan first, but Jeff Tweedy's up there for me. And his Substack, it's been incredible, that connection. And what's the problem? I mean, if
Yeah.
the connection and what they're sharing is really great, and Jeff Tweedy puts out, he like sends his paywall gang like free stuff. I have a lyric. I have a bound book, a lyric book. I did not pay anything for. Jeff Tweedy just sent it out. It's got all the lyrics for all the songs. He sent it to every person in his Substack. I got it for free.
That's cool.
Didn't even know that when I signed up. Like that kind of stuff,
That's cool.
that's amazing. You can build that community, and I think the potential is really there for Corgan. I think he's still
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure it out. I know he's a little upset that the subscribers have stalled a little bit, but Corgan's smart enough that he'll find a path. I think, hopefully.
Yeah, and it's just like you said, and he said, and I said, it's like that your people will find you, and I think that that's all you should care about is your people. Because I mean, if you start getting like, it was funny, like a news said, oh, if you go onto Facebook, I'm like, I don't know if I want the Facebook crowd. I've seen what goes on in Facebook. I don't know if I want the Facebook crowd. I like the Instagram crowd. But you know what I'm talking about? It's like, I think that the right kind of people will find him. And I love what he's doing, because he does talk about a lot of different creative processes. And it's not like a being a yes man type of a thing. It's like, that's interesting for some people, of like, okay, this is how we're doing this. This is what we're doing. I think that's a great way, especially since there's so many other, you hear a lot of other things. You're excited for the new tour,
My
Machines of
God,
God.
I'm going to the opening night of that tour in what 10 days, right? Uh, I am. This is the set list is a dream freaking come true. I am a full on Machina zombie. Okay, and to see the set list, I cannot freaking wait. Now, just like a lot of people, I really wish at least Jimmy was part of this. I think that's one of the best eras for Jimmy's drumming. I think all those songs really benefit from Jimmy's drumming. I mean, he just announced Glass and the Ghost Children today. And that's like easily top three best drum moments from Jimmy ever. So I get that people are sad the others aren't there. But so fucking what? Look at the set list. It's still Corgan doing these songs, and I love that he's treating it kind of in character, like actually doing the promo shots and like embodying the character a little bit. I'm all
Yeah.
in. I mean, especially
Yeah.
considering the cost and the small places that they're going to play. So I'm seeing this twice. I'm seeing it in Baltimore, which is local, and then I'm flying to Joliet with the original Asherella. I don't know if you know her, a fellow YouTuber. Um, she's been on my
Yeah, I've seen you guys do. Yeah, yeah, on your
yeah. So
podcast.
we're both flying. She's in North Carolina. We're both flying out to Chicago together to go see it
Nice.
in Joliet, and we're kind of hoping Jimmy shows up because that's his hometown. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, honestly, if I could, I'd see it more times. It looks amazing, and I can't believe anyone would like miss out on this.
yeah,
But it's I gotta tell you, like I love the Pumpkins coming back, playing the fan friendly, even the casual friendly set list. I think that's the right move. But
yeah,
as a fan of the deep cuts, I want to hear the deep cuts, and I don't. I saw the acoustic tour. I love it, great, but I do want to hear it with a full electric band. And so this might be up there with like the 2018 tour for me, just like a peak moment. I really can't wait. I'm so excited.
I love like it's never been a secret with me and him. Like I've always loved Machina, and it's I know that for him personally, it was such a tough time
I
that he
know,
was going
yeah.
through recording that. But the songs that came out of it were just
Magic.
fantastic and blow me away. Glass and the Ghost Children. I mean, they take you down some musical journeys. I loved everything about that time period. Um, what I brought up with BJ too is what a lot of people don't give credit for Core too was that uh, I think a lot of reasons why Machina didn't do as well as some of the other albums was that Napster was really big at the time, and so all of a sudden people stopped buying music and they were getting free music. But what a lot of people also don't understand is that Korg was actually on the forefront of that too, because Machina 2 he gave away so
Yeah,
that
of course.
everybody could spread it on
Yeah.
Napster, like
If
for
you look
free.
at interviews from that time, he was very supportive of Napster during that time, which is
Yeah,
really interesting. Yeah,
which was not the case of Metallica.
you're right. Exactly. Compare that to Metallica.
Right?
Um, yeah. As a Metallica fan, I lived through that
Yeah.
backlash too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting, and it does feel like for some reason that wasn't a big deal. I remember like yeah, like Wilco got fired from their label for making Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, right? Too weird. Label's not going to put it out. They put it out for free on the internet, and now it's their most popular album. And a big part of that was they were getting screwed by the label. And they put it out for free on the internet, and people loved it. So I don't know how that story didn't get out with Machina too. I really
Yeah.
don't. Because to me, it's the
Yeah.
exact same story in relatively the exact same time.
Mhm.
Big mean label doesn't want to put it out. Band puts it out for free. It's awesome. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know how that wasn't a bigger deal. Perhaps, I think perhaps with the public, there might have been just a little fatigue with the Pumpkins by that time.
Yeah.
If that had happened, if Machina was put out in '07 after they'd been gone for a while and had the same story, I think it would have been a much bigger deal in that way.
Yeah.
But that's my only explanation for it because otherwise I don't get it. I don't get why I hadn't heard of Machina 2 until I started going on Netforia. Like, how, that
Yeah.
seems like it would have been a bigger story, but it just wasn't.
Yeah.
So strange.
It's just it was definitely a weird time in music. Do you have a favorite Machina 2 track?
Ooh, yes, I do. What would you think it is? Nope.
Dross?
Nope. It
No.
is Blue Skies Bring Tears, the heavy version.
Oh,
That to
yeah.
me that's a top 15 of all time, and I
Yeah.
know I'm an outlier on that, but to me that is absolutely some of the most ferocious heavy rock I've ever heard, and the lyrics are so fucking good. The vocal delivery is good, and Jimmy sounds like the way Jimmy's drum kit thuds on that recording is absolutely amazing. I love that song. I love all the versions of Blue Skies Bring Tears. I actually think the M1 version is probably the weakest compared to like maybe the Arising versions and all the different variations they did live. But I think overall that
Yeah.
song's just it's a 10 out of 10 in general. But I think going heavy and changing the lyrics in the way that he did with that vocal presence and it's just it gets me every time. Every time I go back to Machina 2, when that comes on, I'm like, geez, this is it's special. It's special and unique. Dross is amazing. I mean, I love almost all of Machina 2. Here's
Yeah.
the Atom Bond's a really big one. These days, I'm
Yeah.
really into In My Body is probably a top one for me these
That's
days.
a great
Oh
song.
my god! I was kind of down on it when I first got into it, but these days it hits in the right spot.
I remember asking at the time what was that song about and him explaining it to me personally and just being like, oh. I mean, I don't think a lot of and maybe they do. Maybe I just am not going to the right places, but I don't think a lot of people give him enough credit for what a fantastic lyricist he is. I don't think enough people give him enough credit for what a great bassist he is, you
That's
know?
very true. I mean the lyric side. I think there's lots of love on and social media on that these days. Now the gatekeepers who make the list of best songwriters, yes, they're definitely not. They're not with him on that. It's the same. He's getting left off the best guitarist list. Like, but if you go on Reddit, you get out of the Pumpkin subreddit, even on like our music, you see people mentioning Corgan all the time in those conversations. But on the bassist side, that's very, very not realized. They don't get it. They don't see that he's that, and
Yeah.
and I love it, especially on the Machina stuff. I think Glass and the Ghost Children, Corgan said they recorded that, especially that opening. He's on bass. He has, they played it live in the room. That shit is some of the best Pumpkins music ever, and his bass work is incredible, absolutely incredible.
Could not agree more in terms of like where he hears bass coming in. Like, I don't think people get that because when people think about bass, they're still caught up in the Darcy, Melissa, Ginger. They're still caught up in those conversations of like, it's like, okay, but let's get back to, okay, that's performing. Let's get back to the recording and the timing of
Yeah.
when something comes in, when the bass comes in. And Machina is one of my favorite heavy bass. I love the bass in Machina. It's so underrated.
Oh,
That
because you
album
love
is
you
like
love '80s
just,
music so much, and it has that tone. It's thicker in the mix, and it has that kind of Peter Hook tone to it, just slightly, and it's
yes,
compositional like Peter Hook, and that's what really it's amazing. And I like that in the
yeah,
latest albums. There's a little bit more of that these days too. On Sear and
yeah,
Autumn, I felt like the bass was a little bit more machina like, and I'm
yeah.
with you. I mean, damn.
Yeah. Like, like even in a song that's kind of like a poppy song like Wound, when the
Yeah,
bass comes in,
God,
the whole car shakes. And I love that. And I know when it's gonna happen. So like I turn it up so that right when it comes in, boom, and it feels like a train coming. I
Lisa, that's
love
my
that.
second favorite Pumpkin song of all time. So please,
Yeah.
give
I love
gush on it
like,
all you
isn't it
want.
such a great song?
It's
It's so
amazing.
good.
It's
I've probably listened
amazing.
to Wound a million, like Wound is such like a just a perfect song. Like lyricist wise, bass wise, drums wise, everything about that song is like
It's
perfect.
perfect.
I love Machina. Like I can't wait for the box set to come out to see all the different things that are that they're going to do for that. I was I had hoped that because I believe at the time they were going to make the cartoon characters have, the anime characters have something, and then Sony dropped their anime department, so that got squashed. But I was looking forward to that at that time. I'm like, that would be so cool to have, like, even if it was like,
Are you
like
excited about the
uh,
graphic novels that are coming out?
yes,
Yeah, I
yes,
know. It's kind of cool, right? I hope that
yeah,
I hope that comes to fruition. I'm a Coheed and Cambria fan, and they have graphic novels for a lot of their albums because that's all a storyline too. And if
yeah.
it's anything like that, I mean, count me in. I can't wait. It's gonna be awesome.
As a librarian, I'm
Yeah,
totally for, like,
yeah.
but it was always meant to be, in my opinion. It was, I always saw the Glass and the Ghost Children characters being in a comic book. That's what I like. And even at that time, I believe Courtney had kind of a, when she did the America's Sweetheart, even she was going in that
Oh
manga
yeah,
route.
I
Like
kind of remember that. Yeah.
everybody was going, yeah, they were kind of going that. And I thought, and you know what? Those two people, I will say, have been in the forefront of the internet since the internet started. Like they've been very proponent wise. Courtney was on the old AOL whole boards. I believe Billy snooped around the old AOL boards at that time. Um, he's always been, I think, very progressive when it comes to tech kind of stuff. So for that, and just trying different things and being innovative in different things. I mean, obviously it's working. What he's doing at Zuzu's has been fantastic. He's built a community. And I'm now hearing other people are doing it too. Like I just recently learned, I have a guest that's coming on. They do stand up poetry type thing at a cafe that Maynard and his wife have in Arizona. And
Oh,
I'm
how
like,
cool.
oh,
Yeah,
I didn't know that they've got one. They're like, yeah. And they're very, I think that's so cool that there's artists that are making these communities.
yeah, it's
Like at
awesome.
first, I think people couldn't understand, oh, he's got a tea house. But I think it's fantastic because
Yeah,
now he can put out his own music. He could put out direct fan stuff. Like, how is that bad in any way? Who's
right.
got any complaints, right?
Here's another great example of the Machina era and Corgan being a little ahead on the technology. It's one of the things that I was able to find. Lost It was Lost Media, the official video for Crying Tree of Mercury, the interactive flash animated video that was on MTV.com. It was lost for years. I was on the Wayback Machine Internet Archive. Every time I got on a Machina kick, I looked further and further for it. I finally found the files, so and you can't play it on modern computers because it doesn't play Flash. So I reached out to the sub, found someone with some tech issues because some tech knowledge, because I found some Flash emulators I couldn't get to work, but he got to work, and so I took that and I upgraded the audio because back then these were this is dial-up internet days, so the audio quality
Yeah.
was really really bad. So I
Yeah.
I, I added the like a basically a high quality version of the song with a playthrough of the animation, and that's on my channel. And if anyone's a lot of people didn't even know that existed, and
Yeah.
to me it's so amazing. It features a lot of Vasily's artwork, which I absolutely love, and that's another example of Corgan being willing to try new stuff and being ahead of the game in a bit. Because to me, when that came out, I was just getting into the Pumpkins, but I couldn't think of any other band that had an interactive video like that with that level of care, and I loved it so much. So I was so happy to find it. I found it a couple years ago. That's up on my channel. I really encourage, if you've never seen it, it is, in my opinion, it's probably the second best music video from the
Maybe I
Machina
can
era for
learn to
me.
splice like you and splice it into this.
Yeah.
I've been trying
Uh,
to
uh,
splice that. Like I've been inspired by you because like I've watched your stuff. I'm like, so like I don't know if you've I don't know if you watch our show, but like I've lately been trying to add
yeah.
things in. And
Yeah.
I recorded James Allen from Las Vegas at a different time that I recorded Rab, and they're both my friends, but they both had a story months apart. And it was the same story about their moms. And so I
Okay.
was like, I
You
would
tried to
be,
splice
I'm
it
gonna
together. Yeah.
I tried to splice it together, and so that was inspired by you because I'm like, I
Oh
think
my
I could
gosh.
try to. So it's totally like DIY, like you could tell it's DIY, but it
Yeah.
was inspired by you. And I'm like, I'm gonna
Oh,
just try
thank you.
something different, and it got like like 18,000 views, and I'm like, well, that's not bad.
That's not bad.
That's not bad to try to make something, do something different. We're evolving, like we'll
Yeah.
get better.
I
you know.
tell you, as I got into it, I fell more in love with that piece. Being able to tell a story through editing. It could drive you mad though if you try to get really ambitious with it. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I get stuck on limitations. And so like lately I've been going to Chat GPT and saying, okay, how do I do this? Can you explain this to me? And I've learned how to do stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. And also just, I mean, I don't like, that's why I asked you, did you have a set idea of how you wanted your, podcast to be or your show to be? And for me, I didn't, I just wanted to talk to people about how they discovered music. I just want to talk to people about music. I love hearing about music. I love people telling me about music so I can go like
Yeah.
I love music. But
Yeah.
then at the same time we learned that like looking through analytics, which was really surprising, was that sometimes I just had my friends that I've like known since elementary school, but I brought them on because they were the people that I discovered music with. And so like I wanted to talk like how did we discover music? And then we
Yeah.
had kids. How did they discover music?
Yeah.
And those
That's
episodes
compelling.
were
That's compelling.
they were
Yeah.
just surprisingly, it was like Alex, my next door neighbor and a high school friend, just
Absolutely.
as high as if I have Rab from Las Vegas on. And it was just like, and then we started looking at the demographics, and it was like surprising because like for like a news, he's got 1 million followers, but when he looks at his demographics, it's usually centered in two ranges, like the 20
Hmm.
to 30 and the 30 to 40.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
really his range. But for us, it was like down from 13 to 17, all the way down to
Oh,
like
that's cool.
55 to 65. It was all even. And we're like, and I was like, I don't understand that. But then kids were writing me that were my son's friends. So like, hey, we really like this, Miss Lisa. This is really, we like to talk about music. I'm like, oh, you
That's so
guys
cool.
are listening. I love my ex students.
I think on the internet, real relationships are often not featured. It's always strangers talking to each other. And anytime that you can get true connection It's already built into the interaction. You know,
Yeah.
you have a personal story with somebody. That's why I, I mean, Asherella and I, we have a good connection because through the pumpkins. But for the most part, most of my co-hosts, like my sister is my best friend, they know where the bodies are buried with me. So all the in
Yeah.
jokes and all that stuff, I don't shy away from that because everyone's told me it's like that's what's compelling about it. That's why they like to watch that better than a lot of the other folks that are just it's just themselves in the room. People want
Yeah.
connection. They want to feel part of a friendship. I think that's a big part of like the Howard Stern show. It's not about Howard Stern. It's about Howard Stern and all of his staff. It is
Yeah.
it is the friendship. It's the jokes. It's the in jokes. It's them ripping on each other. And I try to include. And you can't really get there if you're talking to a stranger. You got to have some
Yeah.
kind of like deeper level connection and an understanding of each other. And I think that's really
Yeah.
compelling, and that's why that your episodes did so well.
Yeah, it was surprising, and, when we tried to at least put it on TikTok, like, in the beginning when I was like, "Oh, I'll try to put it on TikTok,"
Give it a try.
I found it funny that it was those episodes of me just talking to my old high school friend, like, that, those were, like, the most viewed, and it was like, "That's strange because
Yeah,
this is a platform that's usually just kids," but they liked hearing a mom and a dad talking about their kids and music, and they found it comforting, and when I talked to my kid's friends, he's like, "Yeah, we liked that episode, it was pretty cool." I'm like, "Really?" Like, it was just like a mom and dad, they're like, "Yeah, it was just cool, just to listen what old people talk about." I'm like, "There it is,
there it
what
is.
old people talk about."
Hey, whatever gets the views.